Okay, let's try this again. Um, Hopefully I have sound this time. Sorry. I totally forgot to switch because the dumb thing is when I go live on the laptop, it really screws with the like it for some reason the default mic is well this headset right here. But it's not even connected, so it shouldn't do that. But for some reason, this has been set as the default, and I don't know how to change that. So, besides the point, so everything I just said in the other stream, now I have to say it again. So, but anyways, let's try this again. So, yeah, I want to go racing in the car. To be honest, it'd be fun. Granted, I'd be the slowest one there. I already know this, but there's a few things that I'd have to do before I could actually race the car. And hi, um, interesting name. Um, but anyways, so but basically, like what I'm talking about, is trying to get my car to pass race tech, and what that would involve. Really, there's a few things. Some things I would want clarity on to see what is actually allowed, because rules sometimes don't delve fully into what 100% is allowed for some things. So, like for example, my battery hold down, it says needs a secure battery hold down. I don't know if they consider bungee cords an adequate battery hold down, to be honest, because it is for an out of province inspection. So there's that. But for racing, I'm not sure. Um, to be honest, probably not. I know a ratchet strap would work, which I could, swap it out for a ratchet strap, to be honest. And that'd be fine. It just my battery doesn't fit properly in the battery tray. That's the reason why I don't have a proper battery hold down on it. It does sit a little like this in the battery tray. It's not level. It's a little too big of a battery. But so there's that portion of it. I would need to swap the fuel filter because they require you to have a metal fuel filter, not a plastic one like I have. So that would have to be changed out. Um, and there's this whole thing with the neutral safety switch because when we did the manual swap, so I have reverse lights. So technically the neutral safety switch works, but only half of it because I don't need to depress the clutch to actually start the vehicle. Which technically speaking, I don't think it had a proper neutral safety switch in 1983 for that for a T5. Um, I'd have to look into that for sure. But regardless, so it's those types of things, all relatively small. But and something. So my oil breather does. Um, it's kind of interesting because I have a PCV valve on the valve cover. Yet for some reason, it still likes to spray a bit of oil out the back of the valve cover via the breather. So that's something I'm gonna have to address, which I think I might be able to. Now that I have a PCV on the front, I might be able to put a breather on the back that doesn't have a vent tube on it, and that might work. But it just stuff like that, right? Just minor things. I would also need to get a helmet, which I don't have one, so that kind of renders all of these mods absolutely useless. So there's that. So that's kind of where I'm at, to be honest, of figuring out, you know, to make the car maybe pass tech, which I don't think it. I don't know if I'd be able to get it to. I'd be able to get it to relatively easily, but also I am broke right now. Like I have no money. So this whole enterprise is not the smartest thing to do, to be honest, at the moment. I went to a car show the other day, This was on Wednesday because you know what? I just wanted to celebrate a really nice milestone for myself. Because if any of you saw my video I put out, I just put out a quick little short video or on it. Um, well, so there's a like it would only be when I could actually get out there, and there's only a few days that actually like they have the cheap street legal drags. At what I consider my local track, which my local track is actually out in Rimbey, and Rimbey is it's about an hour and a half from here, give or take. It's not too bad of a drive. But yeah, and like these are the street legal drags. So, like there's one tonight. There is I can look really quick. When are the next ones? I'd have to look that up. I have it on that picture that I sent my buddy tonight. Let's see here. So yeah, so like I said, May 26th, which is today. It's 1:00 in the morning now. June 23rd, August 23rd, and September 15th. So a few days throughout the year that they have these street legal drags, which is just it's cool because so okay, regularly if it wasn't the street legal drags, it would be I think it's like $150 for the day. However, with the street legal drags, they drop that to $25 for racer entry. So, which is pretty cool. And all the cars that race today will have to be 100% street legal. They'll have to, have insurance and registration, and you have to have a license, all that stuff. And it's really not, you know. But also, like, I have not a lot of fuel in my tank. Like, could I get there and back on that tank of fuel? Probably, but just barely, and I'd have almost no fuel. So, kind of renders this whole thing pointless to do this because again, I don't have money right now. I'm broke, so that's fine. It was just a thought that I had, and then with all the stuff that it needs to be done, it would make me completely flat ass broke, 100%. So it's unfortunately at the moment not worth me doing. But it would be cool, and like I would definitely be the slowest car there. Oh, pump gas, because that's the one thing. Like my car's not fast. It's not. My car, 200 inline six Fox body with a T5 manual swap and a 355 gear with dual exhaust on it. Still the factory exhaust manifold. It's got a 2-barrel carb, but it doesn't really actually add that much power because it's through an adapter to the 1-barrel intake. And I've got a super cell coil in it. Let's see, what else do I have? That's pretty much it at the moment for anything that would add power. Because even my MSD Street Fire coil wires aren't really adding power, I don't think, to be honest. Because my buddy who ran his, it's interesting because he's running a little more horsepower than me, which is weird because his is basically stock other than emissions deleted on his 81 Capri that's an automatic with the inline six. He actually pulled 94 horsepower. I pulled 91 horsepower, but I pulled 185 foot-pounds of torque. He only did, I think it was 145 foot-pounds of torque. So that was interesting. But my big tires also do drain a little bit of power, not a ton, but like technically it's slower with the tires that it has on it. If I used my summer tires, I'd actually be faster, but I'd have axle hop as well. So there's that. Which there is a way to curb axle hop without really spending that much money, and something you can actually do. It's something that people do with G body, like Regals and Cutlasses all the time. Is they'll put a football inside the coil and they'll pump it up with air, and basically it gives it it makes the spring essentially a little stiffer when you do that. So once you do that, it's supposed to curb axle hop. And G body guys will do it because on burnouts, typically G bodies do have a bit of axle hop. When they go down the road, not so much. They have a thing called G body shuffle where they kind of just shuffle down the road. It's very interesting. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And it would just be just kind of fun, and see what my reaction time is and stuff like that. Oh yeah, Jesse, it can. After I did the um after I did not with the current tires it has on it right now, but it will do it with the summer tires or the winter tires though. But they're only 195 wide, so there's that. But it's got enough torque to do it because it doesn't take much torque to really get axle hop, and I've got no weight on the ass end either, so that probably doesn't help. Also, hi Desi, and oh yeah, like that's the one thing. So my channel, it's 100% where it's just me with literally I'm filming with my phone here. I do very minimal editing and my phone's just on a tripod, whatever else. Typically it's me talking. I do work to the car as well on the channel and all that sort of stuff. Like something like this, I would definitely film this whole process of me just even getting it ready for this. I would film going down the strip and whatever else and seeing what my times are and what's the whole process involved. What all do they check, sort of thing. And now, granted, track to track is going to be a little different because I know even up in there's a racetrack actually in Edmonton or near Edmonton, technically, where they have a drag strip. Theirs is actually quarter mile, but they have a little more safety stuff that you need. Like if you have a carbureted vehicle, you need 2 throttle return springs. I don't have that. Technically, I have an extra throttle return spring though that I could add to the card. Don't make me wrong, but I just again, it's just some things that I would need to do. Let's see. So, um, removing weight? Not necessarily, no. I have it's stock weights for the most part, other than, deleting emissions, obviously. So, like, okay, stuff that has added weight and stuff that has decreased weight. So, I added a headliner, but that's not much weight. It's just cardboard, basically. It might be a couple of pounds. The carpet would have been one of the bigger ones that probably added 15 or so pounds. Um, I did not have air conditioning in the car, period. So that, you know, didn't have anything to do with that. The transmission is far lighter because it was a C4 automatic car. It's now a T5 manual. The rear end is heavier because it is an 8.8 compared to the 6 3/4 rear end. So the 6 3/4 rear end actually wasn't too heavy. That rear end with fluid in it was maybe honestly 60 pounds, to be honest. 70 pounds. Like, it wasn't that heavy. That 8.8 is over 100 pounds, to be honest. Um, you know, let's see. And then the seats themselves actually are probably they are lighter than the original seats. They're factory seats, but they are lighter than what I had originally in the car. Um, and that's pretty much it for that I can think of for weight savings and weight gains. I do know that when the car was bone stock, it didn't even have the exhaust modified yet. I still had all the emissions, I believe, and I think I still had the one. I'm pretty sure I had the 1 barrel carbon at that point. But regardless, the car weighed 2,680 pounds, but I don't even know if I had the carpet in the car yet. I probably did. I would have to go back and see because I know when it was actually done. I could look that up. Whenever I did the video for that Cosworth Vega, actually. And as for doing acceleration runs, I actually have. I just haven't filmed the process because it's a little difficult for me to film. Just because of the now I do have, so I can actually show this. Where's my other? If I can find it. Did it fall into the depths of the couch? Yeah, I may have. I'd have to find that device because I have two phones technically. I just one is my old phone. Um, but so the my old phone I could have set up in the back of the car at an angle where you can kind of see where I'm going and stuff like that. And then the other one would just be on recording the screen of how fast I'm actually going with the times. Because I have an app, I found a new app that actually works now because my old app stopped working for that. So it seems to work fairly okay. And the one thing is, when you have one app, it might not be dead on accurate, but there shouldn't be any variation because it's the same app. It's one thing if you're using like an app compared to proper timing equipment at a racetrack. Well, that's a little different. Or even like something, because there's something like because I have an in with a dyno, to be honest. It's called Devon Dyno. Now the thing is with Devon Dyno, um, I can run my car on his dyno for free because of just what I've done for him with marketing and stuff like that. Now a Draggy would be the best. Don't get me wrong. I don't have the money for a Draggy. I would love a Draggy though, but just don't have the money for it. Because that would be better than my simple little app on my phone. Yeah, it's not 100%. It's pretty close though. Like my old app was a lot better because it would actually tell you how accurate the um GPS was at the time. So and a lot of the times it's at 100%, but now I can't even get it to work. Period. To me, the are a good way to figure out tire pressure, etc. Oh, for sure. That's one of those things. Like my car. So to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily be playing around with tire pressures too much, only because tire pressures aren't going to make much of a difference at all with my 81 Mustang. Because again, it makes 91 horsepower, 185 foot-pounds of torque. And I'm not on like drag slicks or anything like that. And so yeah, like I wouldn't really be doing too much lower of pressures or anything like that in the tires. Um, but yes, that can definitely make a difference. Because like what would probably happen whenever I race the car, because I do want to do it at some point. It'd be nice to actually run down the track and see, not only how fast the car is, but also like what my reaction time is, stuff like that. Yeah, oh exactly. Um, but and the one thing is with so these street legal drags, they are um they're no prep. They clean the track, but they don't prep the track, you know? They just make sure that, like they will make sure spills and stuff like that are cleaned up, but they're not dragging the track. So there's that. It's no prep event. And that's why instead of it costing $150 for a day, it only costs 25 because there's a lot less labor involved for them. So yeah. But anyway, so with the dyno, the thing is he does have a program with his dyno that does, you know, quarter mile runs and stuff like that you can do on it. But even when I notice on the dyno, there's obviously a lot less resistance. There's a lot less rolling resistance, obviously. Um, and there's also like no. consideration for wind, right? That way. So you would be able to get base runs for tuning purposes, but you wouldn't be able to get the actual, proper sort of times that what your car would actually do. Exactly. Um, and don't get me wrong, it'd be interesting and that'd be a fun video to test to see how much of a difference it is. Now, his dyno, because it happens to be a trailer dyno, that dyno it's within 3% accurate of what a stationary dyno that will cost you a lot more money to run typically is. He said like it's usually he says yeah, like 2 or 3% is all the difference, which is not bad considering, you know. But I do know that 2 or 3%, if I went to Calgary, I would lose that anyways because of the elevation difference. Where I got a dynoed out in Devon, it's a difference of about 1,500 feet of elevation. So it does make a difference with a carburetor, and even with non-carb vehicles too, to be honest. It can run it a little differently. But it's just one of these things. Like with my car, and I'm still trying to figure out the tune because, a couple weeks ago I melted a set of spark plugs in the car. So I did dial back the timing a little bit. If I brought it as is realistically, if I had, honestly, now how I would run it technically, it wouldn't be with the giant tires that are on it right now. I would actually swap tires around a bit. So basically, what would happen is the tires that are on the front that are 235 6015. No, not 220. Sorry, yeah, 225, not 235. Those will go on the back, and then my winter tires that are 195 7014 would go up front. Once I did that, because that would also curb the fact that I have an issue where the car doesn't actually make enough power to power those rear tires properly, so it wouldn't bog off the line. Maybe like an 1880 or so, to be honest. Again, slow. It's not fast. Um, in the quarter, anyways. In the eighth, I'm not sure what I would do in the eighth, to be honest. Probably closer to like a 10 or 11-second eighth, because it's a slow car. It's got decent acceleration, but top end it doesn't have much. It's also a 296, right? That has no internal work done, and and everything I've done has been more for drivability, excluding like the coil and the transmission and the gears out back. So those are the only things that really would affect how it goes down. But also like something that, because if I could get it to run a little cooler, I could probably get that thing to be just a little bit quicker. But again, everything that I'm doing is marginal, right? It's a slow car. Personally, like I think because my 81 feels faster than my 86 Mustang, but I think the 86 Mustang is faster. But right now, the 86 Mustang isn't even registered properly at the moment, so that's not gonna be racing that one. Plus, that one has oil leaks, and um, like if I got registration for it, and if I fix the oil leaks, oh, I would have to fix the power steering leak too, because there's a power steering leak from the power steering pump, so I'd have to swap out the power steering pump. On that one, and I'd have to change out the fuel filter as well. Other than that, I think that one would actually pass. Or no, battery hold down as well. I would have to do the battery hold down on that one. So, I actually do have a proper battery hold down for that car. It's just not installed. It just has a bungee cord. So, but which that car is a little faster, but it's still, I think, 17-second quarter, still even with that one, because it's a non-high output 302. Even with all the mods on it, it's kind of a tired motor, and it only makes 130 wheel horsepower, and it's like 230 foot-pounds of torque to the wheels. It's not much. It's also got a C5 automatic, because it was originally a 3.8 V6 car. It's now obviously a 302 from an 88 T-Bird, but it's got, garbage heads on it, and, it's got no emissions, though. Like, I deleted all of that stuff. It does happen to have, a really cool intake on it that is a aftermarket Shelby intake from the 60s. And it's got a Holley 600 carb, which actually, to a certain degree, might be a little too much carburetor for it, just because of the heads. I'm not kidding. I could probably put a 500 on there and it'd be a little better for power. Not much. I do know, though, that in that carburetor, I do need to, and I've been meaning to do this with that carburetor. I haven't. I need to change out. There's a little spring, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the spring is called. But because on the top end it runs a little lean, not like a dead lean or anything, but a little bit lean. So just get it to be so it's not lean on the top end, and there you go. It's perfect. But that car actually runs pretty good overall. I'm just a little tired of a motor. So, but again, convertible's not registered, even though it's perfect convertible weather lately. So it's just that sort of thing, of just figuring out stuff. And like when I have the budget to do this stuff properly, yeah, I will. And, like something, and I'll talk to even John as well, because like something, he's told me that, yeah, the convertible definitely is. It's just a fun little cruiser, to be honest. It's technically faster than my 81, but it's heavier than it is, well, and you know, and and that's all I really wanted for. I just wanted for a cruiser that you can have a bit of fun with. Like, I would like to swap out the rear end as well. Give it a limited slip and give it a little better gear instead of the 273s. Put it with like say even like a 327, something like that. With the limited slip, that would be nice. Because technically I won't make enough power to grenade the 7.5, to be honest, in that car, unless if I swap the heads. But even then, 7.5s will hold up unless you put slicks. Once you put slicks on a 7.5, that's when you typically blow up those rear ends. So, it's one of those things. Like, and something, because I can make that car a lot faster, because I actually do have a set of 373 gears for a 7.5. But, it's one of those things that on that car, I don't want to do that, because it would just dramatically reduce the gas mileage compared to what it is now, which it gets okay mileage right now, but the 81 gets a hell of a lot better mileage though. Where the 86, I'm lucky to get about 21 miles per gallon on the highway. My 81, when it's running absolutely optimal, it gets about 33 miles per gallon. So it's pretty good, actually. That's highway, but I do mostly highway driving anyways. I don't do much town driving. So, oh yeah, it's a big difference. And realistically, so like stuff I want to do to the 81 coming up, and again, it all falls down to when I can have money. So this year it'd be really awesome if I could get a cam put in that car, and if I can get a header on it. That would be really, really awesome, because it would really make a huge difference in my 81 with the inline 6. A cam went at about 15 horsepower. The header adds anywhere between about 30 to 40 horsepower, depending on the rest of your setup. So it's pretty actually worth it for all that. So I'd bump my, and that's to the crank horsepower, not to the wheels. So say compromise with the header, say 35 horsepower, and say even with the cam, because depending on the condition of my engine, it seems to be okay. Like it runs really good, and compression numbers were good when I did a compression test on it, but I The last time I did a compression test was like a year and a half ago. So I might want to do another one. The only reason why is because my buddies Capri, like I mentioned, with what we consider day one mods, you delete all the emissions and you delete the catalytic converter. You keep basically the stock exhaust. That's it, right? Same motor, same transmission my car had, actually made more horsepower. So it does make me wonder if my car, if maybe it's a little more tired now. It shouldn't be. It doesn't have that much mileage on that motor. Like that car actually only has 143,000 kilometers on it, to be honest. So, which comparatively to, let me just convert that to miles for anybody in the chat. 143, 0. Oh, whoops, not that. I need to go into here. 2 miles. So that's 88,000 miles essentially that the car has. So there's that. It's really low mileage, and yeah, it looks like it has more miles than that, but it really doesn't. And it's nice, and it's, to be honest, for project cars, it actually has one of the cleanest bodies around. There's a reason why that before I modified the car, I was getting I was getting crap, sorry. You'll have to excuse me. My brain just decided to not work properly. I have actually a condition called POTS, or it's not an official diagnosis of it, but I meet majority of the criteria, and you just have to fight for a diagnosis. It's not even worth trying. For something that's not even curable. So whatever. But basically, it's just at times, my heart will, and I could feel it doing stuff, but my head will get this bit of a headache, and then basically mid sentence I'll be talking, and then it's just gone completely because I don't even remember what I was talking about. Period. And I was mid sentence with that. So, I'll just answer Jeff's question there. So, yeah, it's like a brain freeze, but also I deal with other things with it. Like I do faint and stuff like that. It's not fun at all. But to answer your question about oil, so I typically run just conventional 10W30 in my car. Both my cars. Every once in a blue moon, I'll put synthetic, but honestly, synthetic in old cars, it's not even worth putting in, only because synthetic, because of the way it's made, it actually has worse properties when it comes to oil leaks. It's a little thinner, so it'll actually bypass seals easier than conventional oil. New cars, though, pretty much require it, and new cars typically don't really leak oil very much, so it's not too bad. Yeah, see, and that's the one thing. You with the 2015 Corvette, so that's gonna have the LS, or is that LS or is that LT at that point? I'm not even sure. But regardless, that's because that's a C7 Corvette, I think. Yeah, that'd be C7. It is LS. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, with the zero weight, and a lot of newer cars run zero weight, and that is just, it's mind-boggling that you can have that light of oil in your vehicle. To be honest, but that's just how modern engines are designed. Where the older cars, you have to run a little heavier oil, and like honestly, I run always decent oil typically, or all the time, but it's just how what brand it is will vary on my budget at the time, and as well what's even just on sale. Because most of the the top end. Like most of the name brand oils are pretty much they're fine. There's nothing really too much of a difference between them when it comes to how your car runs or anything like that. Like I've put Castrol in my car. I've put Pennzoil. I've done a few other ones, and it's never changed how it runs, and hasn't really changed gas mileage too much, to be honest. So that I've noticed. Oh yeah, like because you have a bunch of computers and whatever else controlling your car. Mine basically, how I know how it runs is I listen to it, I look at how the exhaust looks, and I pull the plugs every couple of months and check them out and see how they look. Which I'm gonna pull the plugs probably tomorrow on my car actually to see how they look, because see if my little fix, or at least that I think is a fix, actually fixed the lean that was melting my spark plugs. So, but like it's something with my car, because it's interesting because I have really big ass tires. They are 275 6015s. They are 28 tall and they're about a 10 or 10.5 wide. Um, the thing is, with all that, the car, I don't actually have enough. Okay, there are two things I could do to fix this problem: add power, which is what I want to do, or change out the rear gear rate, or yeah, the rear gear, or swap the transmission entirely to one that has a much higher gear ratio for first gear. So that would also work, or just adding horsepower would work, because with the 28-inch tall tire out back, I have a problem where if I try and launch it off the line, it bogs down. And no amount of tuning is going to fix that, to be honest. Again, it needs more power or better gearing. So I thought I could maybe fix it with just playing around with the timing and everything, but no, I couldn't. So it's sad, but it is what it is. And because even you can see on my dyno run that when I got the car dynoed, you can actually see on that final run, I actually revved the car up to about 3,000 RPM, and I dumped the clutch, and you can see it bog a little bit. But because there's a lot less rolling resistance on the dyno, it just bogged and then quickly went. But if I rev up the car, dump the clutch, and whatever else, it'll bog, and it can actually stall itself out if I continue to have the gas on it, to be honest. So what I actually do with those big tires when I'm setting off is I will just ease into it a bit, and then once I know I'm in the clear with it and I'll just feel it in the car, that's when I hammer on it. So I have to do a little bit of a roll. So it slows, those tires slow the car down. They just do. And I have wanted to do a comparison test with oils, to be honest. That'd be really neat. I wanted to do a bunch of different stuff. And because even like with so with having this in with the dyno, because something he said is that because of my social media work for him and because of my channel, and just we're friends as well, that he is, anytime I want to run on the dyno, I just need to let him know, um and he'll let me run on it for free. It's not a problem. So I tests like that are something I could do, because I can literally change the oil right on the dyno. Because the beauty of my car, you don't need to lift it up to change the oil. You don't. I promise you that. You can actually, from up top, excluding, you still have to drain the oil from down below, of course. But you can actually change the oil filter from up top, to be honest. That's how much room there is inside the engine bay, which is nice. But you know, and you can see what's the difference between different oil filters and how they run too. You know, I could test a cheap Fram filter, which I wouldn't run for very long because they're garbage filters. Um, you know, I could do that. I could do the Napa ones, which I typically run Napa filters anyways. I typically run Napa oil in general too. But you know, and just that sort of thing, right? And go to Castrol filters and all that different stuff, and just see, is there a difference? And also, is Royal Purple actually worth it for somebody who doesn't have like a very high powered vehicle? And you can see, you know, if what kind of a gain it actually makes in power, to be honest, because Royal Purple's supposed to add power. That's its whole the whole thing, and the reason why, you know, it costs so much. Oh yeah, I've seen those videos, and that's why, like I said, I'd maybe just run it for like one run with that, and then it's fine, because it wouldn't actually hurt my motor, to be honest, only because it's a 200 inline six. They can go through one hell of a beating and be fine. But regardless, you know, it's stuff like that, and just saying, you know, what different oils will do for that, what different filters, that sort of thing, right? But regardless, like, and would I do that? Probably not. See, that and that's really fine. Like, the Motorcraft stuff is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with Motorcraft. I will say like something though, because some people think, like, you know, with Autolite as a brand, because a lot of companies use Autolite for just different things, whether it was, you know, spark plugs, or I'm pretty sure they made oil filters as well, and a few other things. Autolite is hit and miss for me. Like, even their carburetors are not amazing. There's a reason why the carburetor I have on it now, compared to the carburetor I had on it in the beginning, this carburetor is way better. And it's kind of a rare carburetor, actually. So, because the carburetor on the car right now, it's a Motorcraft 2100 carb, and it's actually from 1963. And this carburetor actually is really rare in the fact that it's got Holley sized jets in it. Because later on with the Motorcraft carbs, they went to a their own style jets, and they're not, you can't, unfortunately, they are even smaller and or no, they're bigger and threat no, there's something about it where basically you wouldn't be able to drill out the carb and actually got it. See, and that honestly, you know, they work just fine too, to be honest. They're fine. You know, the later ones. I had a 2150 on the car, and it was crap. I could never get that thing to run right. But also, I mean, something else that I had though is that I had some vacuum leaks, to be honest, that I had no idea I had. So, you know, once I fixed all those, it was much better. But yeah, but still, like, with that old system, it just, that carburetor was a brand new carb. It had 500 kilometers on it. I was giving it for free. I was gonna pay the guy for it, but he just decided to donate it to me, so that was fine. Um, and I ran it for close to a year, and then actually Roy Marco, he found this other one that happened to have Holley sized jets in it, and this carburetor, it's interesting because of the way it's put together. So it's actually pieced together from 3 different carburetors. The rebuild kit that I had didn't work for that carburetor. That's the one nice thing about Holley carbs, is that a rebuild kit is a rebuild kit for a Holley carb. Motorcraft carb, there are so many different rebuild kits. It's just stupid. That's the one nice thing about Holley carbs. And I do have a Holley little 2-barrel, but I don't think I'm gonna actually put it on the car. Even though it'd be nicer for swapping out jets and stuff like that, it's one of those things where the Motorcraft carb is better for like daily driver use and whatever else like that. Holley carbs, you have to typically tinker with them a little more. Yeah, and HEI distributors are some of the best. There's a reason why people run them all the time. I had an HEI distributor on my 86 Mustang for a while. Now, the only unfortunate part is like the HEI distributor actually made a difference in how it ran, but the thing is though, it still ran like complete ass because of that piece of crap motor that was swapped into it. Because it wasn't me that swapped it in; it was the guy that I had sold it to that swapped in that piece of shit 302. Happened to be a high output, but man, it burnt so much oil. I believe it had a blown head gasket as well. It was just terrible. And I had no idea because I bought it in the middle of winter. So when I started it, there's a bunch of smoke coming out the back, but it was like minus 20 Celsius outside. So your car is just going to do that anyways. So I just didn't know at the time. So, um, okay. So your best bet to do is if you want a Holley 2-barrel carb, I think if you ever, and again, they're a little rare to find, but go to the junkyard and find any old international pickups because they can have a Holley 2-barrel carb because I have that one Holley 2-barrel and and that thing, it's not high CFM at all. It's actually the lower end of the CFM. It is, I think, the same CFM as what my Motorcraft is, which is 287, I believe, CFM. Um, with that, you know, which would work in your setups, to be honest. They did run on some older internationals, so that's what I would look for. If you're ever in a junkyard or whatever, just see if they have any old 60s or 70s internationals. And just pop the hood and take a look. Worst case scenario is they don't have that carburetor, and it's fine, right? And that way, you can get a core carb that hopefully is decent for maybe 20 or 40 bucks at the most. So it's not too bad. Actually, I need to find the power cord for this laptop because it's kind of Dyson. Where? Oh, where's the cord? There it is. Oh, where is my hairbrush? There we go. Ah, that's better. Yeah, and because that's where mine is actually out of. It's out of an old international. And like I went through my carb and I rebuilt it. So the only thing I didn't change was the needle and seat, but I changed everything else, to be honest. Which I could change out the needle and seat. I still have that rebuild kit, or that the rest of the rebuild kit, anyways. So, but I changed all the gaskets. I just basically just went through it and cleaned it, or cleaned it as best as I could, because some of the stuff just would not come out. So, which basically all of that would do, to be honest, at that point, is my buddy actually had, like my buddy Keith, he has a parts cleaner, but there's always a bunch of crap on top of it, and we can never use it. But also, like, he hasn't refilled the fluid in it because he usually puts like essentially Varsol in it, I believe, and this time he didn't. Like the last time, he didn't, and he put in this other stuff, and it did not work nearly as well. It was nice for like cleaning your hands, like with the grease and whatever else, but for cleaning parts, it was kind of garbage. So it does. Um, I like that parts washer, to be honest. I wish I had one because there would be so much stuff I'd be cleaning all the time. But sadly, I don't have a parts washer. Because honestly, if I had a parts washer, I'd just put it out on the deck and I just basically run the hose through the window, through my kitchen window. You know, and run it that way. Whenever I wanted to use it, just quickly run a small hose and bam, done. Do it. Or technically, no, I wouldn't even need a hose because it's all self-contained. That's right. So technically, I wouldn't need a water supply. I would just need an electrical supply, which I just needed to run an extension cord and plug it in. That's not a big deal. I just have it out on my deck. Because realistically, they are a sealed system. As long as you don't leave it open, that's fine. If because if it gets snowed on and stuff like that, it's totally fine. So, yeah, and stuff that, like I said, there's little things like that that I'd love to have, but that I just don't have. I definitely would. Um, um, every once in a blue moon I do. Like, if people do need help, I will come out and like sometimes, because like there has only been one that I did, and I didn't even ask for money, to be honest, from it. She just gave me money. But to be honest, I just did a band aid for her that she could drive her truck. Because there was a girl that actually posted in one of the, actually, it was a female car group that was part of it. Happened to be an international group, and she just happened to be somewhat local to me. She was out in Innisfail, I believe. Or just, no, not quite Innisfail, somewhere near there, anyways. And this truck happened to be an 80s Ford with a 460 on it with the I believe it was 2 barrel carb on it. And the thing is, so it had a problem where the automatic choke was no longer working. It's a pretty common problem on those Motorcraft 2100 or 2150 carbs. So all I did for her, because once I just diagnosed it, it took me about half an hour or so. I realized, oh, okay, I can get this running, but I told her, like, you want to get this fixed, you want to get the choke properly fixed. She had a sort of manual choke mostly installed, but the problem was it wasn't the cable wasn't actually long enough, so I couldn't properly do it for her with the manual choke. But I basically had a zip tie, and no, I didn't even use a zip tie. I used actually a piece of wire, and I tied it off with the choke partially open so that she could just at least drive the truck along when it's warmer days. If it's a cold day, that's gonna be a bitch to try and start that thing. But on a warm day, it'd be totally fine. And so that she could at least get it out of that storage yard and save herself some money that way, and then she can get it properly repaired at a later date. And like she gave me $60 for that, and like I told her that I wasn't really needing money or anything, but like if people needed help or whatever else like that, yeah, I can help, and I'm always willing to help. But generally I'm typically not being paid, but again, it's one of those things. um yeah, and to be honest, like there are stuff that, yeah, I do get paid for, but that's the only one that I have been paid, but I can get paid for other stuff too. It's just one of these things, to where I have a ton of knowledge on this stuff, and like it's sometimes depending its ability, because a lot of these people that need work on their cars, it's newer cars, and I just don't know new cars, to be honest. I don't know the computers in them. Fuel injection is something, while the basis of it I understand, but when you start adding all these extra sensors and stuff like that, that's when I'm lost. Plus with my health limitations, it does make it difficult to try and pursue mechanics full time, to be honest. I could only do some of the stuff part time, like, and with my cars and everything, where for somebody else working on their car with the knowledge that I have and the experience, I take double, if not triple, of the time because of my health typically. So, and that, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. I've had really shitty health for a number of years now because just because of my body, and it sucks. But it's one of those things, and I will, like something, because actually I'm going to help with it um down the pipeline is I'm going to with the dyno, because he has offered me, so whenever I am there to help him with the dyno, I can make, so I wouldn't be making a lot of money doing this, but basically he'd pay for my gas and I would get $10 a car for helping him strap it down and unhook it and hooking up the fan up front and all that different stuff. You know, so it's not bad. And depending on how many cars, like the women centric dyno day, I thought we were gonna have more people than we did, but we actually got a decent amount of cars on. We got 14 cars total. One was mine, 3 were my friends' car. So the one that was mine, he didn't get any money out of that because he said that he'd run me pro bono at the time. And again, I have free access to his dyno now, which is nice. So, some other things, and like he'll help me with tuning the car at any point. I just need to get my ass up there, to be honest. But there's a date coming up, like June 17th, I think. I will probably actually be helping him out with the dyno, um, which is just nice, you know. It'll just be nice, to do that, and I like to be honest. It's fun playing with cars. And also, I'll get to film the vehicles too, which is awesome. Put them up on YouTube so I get extra content that way. So I can not only create more content for all of you, but also YouTube is a revenue stream for me as well. It's not a lot of money. I make hardly anything off of here, but it is a little bit of extra cash, which is nice. So yeah. But there's always more things that, and I just wish I could, because even, like, because the whole thing of me fainting, it's a real limitation. And if it's really hot, I have an aversion to heat too, so that always gets fun too, dealing with that. Basically, I just need to pace myself and make sure everything's okay all the time, and it's a struggle. It really is, but it is what it is. Because, like, and this whole thing with the pots, and so that screws with my head with the brain fog and with the fainting. um with the pots, with the fainting, and again, they're mm, god, it is so frustrating with my head that way when I get that this brain fog. It's rough. I'm not getting upset. It's my brain basically not thinking of the words right now. Oh, that's so frustrating. Because sometimes it's just a little thing and I lose my train of thought. It's fine. Other times I just can't speak like that. But hey, I definitely appreciate you coming out to the live stream. And to be honest, it was a fun live so far. And yeah, and I definitely have. It's been a long journey of dealing, because even like I have depression and anxiety and all that stuff, and I've come a long way with that shit too. Because just on Wednesday, it was actually a 10-year anniversary of me being released from the hospital from being under suicide watch. So, I've come a long ass way from that too. It's just because back then I didn't know what was going to happen in the next day. I kind of hopeless, and now it's just I'm happy and whatever else. Oh, definitely, and I'm very very happy to be who I am and where I am. I wish I was in better health, but it is what it is. You can't win them all. Oh yeah, and like finding a word, because the one thing is just losing your train of thought is one thing that happens to everybody, but when I get the really big spikes of it, basically it's just like a brain, like it's just the best way to describe it is just like fog in your brain to where you can't really see where it is. You can't get to the words you want to say properly. Um and it kind of manifests itself in a headache for me, which really sucks. No, it's not that. Like I said, Jeff, this has to do with me having POTS. So that's so good. And yes, every once in a blue moon, I have to deal with you, Mustang guy, which you're fine. And you have been one of my longest running supporters on the channel, to be honest. So, which I definitely appreciate you. You were awesome. And like technically I am a little bit tired, but it's not that. The brain fog will kick in randomly, to be honest. It's not just when I'm tired or anything like that. Like I am a little bit tired. I could go to bed. It is 2 o'clock in the morning. But I don't know. We'll see. We're having a good conversation here, so yeah, I definitely appreciate you. Because yeah, like oof. Jeez, and you're up listening to me. Well, I feel special. But actually something that I might do because well, yeah, I guess yeah, Vegas is more west, I suppose. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you are. For time zone wise. Hi kitten. Oh, okay, Rascal, don't step on the laptop. Don't step on the laptop. Thank you. Hi, Rascal. Hi, buddy. Yeah, can see you on the live, eh? Yeah, and this is my cat Rascal. He is, I think he is 15 years old. He definitely acts like a kitten all the time. He doesn't really have a fully developed meow like my other cat. Like he can't meow loud. Saber can, but Rascal can't. He's just an awesome cat. Although tonight he saw some animal outside and his tail just got really big, and you could tell like he was not happy. Like, but I couldn't see what animal he was staring at outside. You know, but he is. Although I told my dad earlier tonight that he's a bit of a toxic relationship with this cat because what he'll do, like, if you move a, almost at all with him, he will just bugger off. And then, 20 minutes later, he'll come back. And then again, you might just want to stretch out your legs or something like that, and he'll just bugger off again. It's like, you little bastard, me. Just that sort of thing. He's fun to cuddle with though, because he just like flops over and Like, and I can rub his belly, and he actually likes belly rubs. Eh? You like your belly rubs? Yes, you do. But like I've had him for the better part of 14 and a half, 15 years. So, like, in my life. My other cat, Saber. Oh, why is this all of a sudden the camera decided to get a little blurry? Why did you do that? There we go. That's better. Um, but yeah, so like I said, he's about 15 years old. My other cat, he's gonna be 24 this year, which is insane to think about, considering I'm gonna be 27 in June. You know, and Saber's been in my life for all but 2 of those years. Like, he's a really old cat. He's in surprisingly good shape considering. You know, Saber, he's a tuxedo tabby, and and see, okay, I was I was petting you, and you just decided to leave me. Like I said, it's a toxic relationship with this cat. He just decided he's gonna leave me, even though I was petting him just fine. Rude. And but like with Saber, because okay, like he's got arthritis in his leg, and every few months we actually get it. We take him to the vet, and they extract the fluid out, and he needs kidney medication every day. Other than that, he's pretty okay. He has issues with his teeth as well, so we actually give him a wet food diet. But again, equivalency, he's the equivalent of like 110 years old, I think. He's a really old cat, and but he's he's my boy, and I love him. Plus, he likes car rides. As long as he doesn't have to go to the bathroom, he will just look out the window a bit, you know, and then when he feels like he's not doing that anymore, he'll just lay down on the seat, and he's just so happy, you know. And yeah, to be honest, like Saber, like he has defied odds of living to a certain extent because he's just been so healthy. It's amazing, but it also does make a difference of taking care of your animals goes a long ways. You know, where you give them the constant affection that you can, and you give them good quality food. That's basically all you need to do. Because a lot of people, especially with cats, will actually kind of neglect their cats to a certain extent. But and it's just because they can't devote the time. Because cats, oddly enough, like people think that dogs are the high maintenance animals. No, cats are much more high maintenance than dogs are. It's not just including their litter box, but it's actually the attention that they require. Because the one thing that I've always said, I prefer cats over dogs only because typically with cats you have to earn their love. Dogs you usually don't. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. There are some cats that just love everybody. Like Saber is one of those cats, for the most part, where he'll jump on anybody's lap and just purr away. People he's never met before, if they're in the house, sometimes he'll just jump up on their lap and just start purring. You know, and when I take him to the vet, he just likes to explore and whatever else, and he's just a very chill cat. You know, but and then there's like Rascal, which I have physically seen Rascal cower away at people. And I'm not sure why. Like he will get physically scared around certain people, and I've never been able to figure that one out. There are people that I've never seen a problem with, but obviously he has, so it's a little curious. Oh, what happened? That's so sad. It's sad. Like, did it have an illness or something, or if you don't mind me asking? Okay, Rascal. If you're gonna come here, you should stay here. Come here. Come here. Hi, buddy. Okay, are you gonna stay here this time? Because if you leave me again, I'm gonna be sad. Like, yeah, that is really awful, but like, so an ear infection, and what did was it like a terminal thing? Was the dog in pain? Like, I'm really wanting to know that. That that is so sad. Seriously, because that's just negligence. Because seriously, like, because honestly, the amount of anesthesia you give an animal usually refers to how much they weigh and also how old they are too. Yeah, 2 years old. That is sad. Poor puppy. You know, that was a big dog. That was a big puppy. 84 pounds. What breed were they? Being that big of a dog, because that's not a light dog. You know, that's something like with that I like about cats. I can pick up the cats and it's all good because they're light ish. But dogs can get really heavy. Like, when there are dogs out there that get to be the weight I was when I was about 13, which it's so weird because when I was 13 years old, um, totally different time for me. I was a lot skinnier than I am now. I I basically stopped growing at about 12 or 13 years old. So a lot of the stuff that I had back then, excluding some clothes, still fit me. Like, there is like still the same shoe size from back then, and there's a few other things, to be honest, that I still have. Like, and I have a shirt that actually from when I was like 8 years old that still fits me. Blows my mind that it still fits. But must have just been big when I got it. Uh, jeez, that's just insane. And that's the thing. You don't just give them more and more anesthesia. Oh no, I am. So I'm about 5'10", actually. And the thing is, so because with anesthesia, there's variations with anesthesia with animals or even people. Sometimes you give them the anesthesia and then you wait. And the thing is, and they should have, to be honest, asked you after they gave them the initial hit of anesthesia, they should have asked you, hey, we gave them, the recommended amount for their weight, you know, um, we're gonna wait a bit and see if the dog passes out, and if so, we can do this. And if not, after about 10 minutes or so, say to you, well, hey, so we would like to give them a little more, say about an extra, instead of a full extra dose, it's only like maybe 15 or 20% or something like that, extra, and it shouldn't harm the dog at that point. But yeah, obviously, they probably what they did was they did their regular amount, and then they did the regular amount again, which is not what you do. You know, there's only certain circumstances, and now and that being a black lab and German Shepherd, that's a pretty big lab. You know, being 84 pounds, that's whew, it's pretty big. Oh, you sent me a picture of the pup. Oh, it's the pup in front of your Mustang. Oh, yeah, that was a very good sized dog. Wow. Yeah, there you go for all of you in the chat. Come on. All right, you can see him there. Anyways, it's not really focusing 100%, but yeah, just a very cute dog. That's sad. That's a really good picture too, of just the stance that your dog had with the tongue out and everything, and just looking so happy, and just having the head placement just perfect, and with the Mustang in the background and all the then having the trees and the grass and everything. That's a really good picture. Yeah, I bet he did. There we go. Just delete that. Oh, oh. um, but yeah, because I don't know if you heard me, but I'm just gonna type it in the chat here. So, because you said you thought I was 5'8", but I am. Here, I'll just type it here. Oh, shoot! I did not mean to press that. There we go. There you go. That's how tall I am, which it surprises people, to be honest, because most women are shorter than me. And then, for the most part, I am generally not wearing flat-footed shoes, so it makes me look even like I'm even taller in those instances too. So like generally I'm usually right around 6 foot tall all the time, just because I'm usually in a little bit of a heeled shoe. Such a good looking boy. Eh? Yeah. Poor Pop. That makes me sad. Genuinely makes me sad. No, I've never played basketball. I was a soccer gal, to be honest. I played soccer, and then I played one season of floor hockey, and that was grade 11. But as a kid, like everybody wanted me for basketball, to be honest, but I never liked basketball. I was never any good at it either. So soccer, though, I was actually quite proficient at. And what was nice with me, because when I was playing soccer, actually I was in shape to be honest, and I miss those days a lot. But I also don't miss having to do everything I did in that shape, to be honest. But it's just a lot of work, which I'm not really able to do now. Like I can't. So because of having my POTS condition, I can't like even do sit-ups. I can no longer ride on. I actually have a rowing machine in the house. I can't even use that anymore because it's the kind of bending motion like this, bending down, getting up, sort of thing. That my body, like my head, I'll just get lightheaded doing it, and I will eventually faint doing that. So can no longer do that. So, and I can't really do like push-ups either. Basically, all I can do is just walk. I can walk. I could probably ride a bike still, but I sold my bike, so there's that. I don't have it anymore. I just figure stuff out. But yeah, no, you know, yeah, just was never good at basketball, and in soccer, you know, okay, seriously, dude, make up your damn mind. See, this is what I mean. It's a toxic relationship with this cat. He comes and goes all the time, sir. Okay, see, because of the way he laid down here, he actually might stay this time around. Because not all the time that he comes up and curls up like that he actually stays. But when he actually lays on my lap, he typically does. Um. Oh, and now you flop over. There you go. Hey, buddy. Now, are you gonna stay this time? Probably not, because the windows are open and stuff like that. So he wants to go. Because basically, what's catching his attention is, you know, um, he'll just because the windows are open in the house, he's smelling the outside, and then if there's a little bit of a breeze, he'll see the curtain move, and so he'll jump up to the window and take a look outside. All the time he does that. So it's one of those things. Oh, frick, I'm getting really tired. I'm fairly soon here. I'm gonna have to shut down the stream, even though it's such an awesome conversation. I'm just getting tired. Like I'm not gonna end it yet, but it will be fairly soon. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Crap. Okay, there we go. Okay, no worries, Jeff. It was absolutely awesome seeing you here in the chat. Yeah, it's nice to have a fan like you, that because most of my subscribers, they don't come to my lives, period. They will just watch my videos, and even then, majority of the views I get aren't even from subscribers in general. If I had every single subscriber watch every single video, my channel would actually be a lot bigger, to be honest. But that never happens. Even subscribers that have millions of subscribers, they never get everybody to watch the videos. So oh yeah, like, so the one thing is with my live streams, I just do them on a whim. I never actually have them out there to where they're never scheduled. But actually something. So every Saturday, although I don't know if I'll be there this week, we'll see. But every Saturday on my buddy Novotaz's channel, which I'll spell that for you, if you want to go subscribe to his channel. So Novotaz's channel, every Saturday there is an automotive centric podcast, but it's kind of like here, to where the conversation can devolve into pretty much anything. And it's every Saturday at, so your time it'd be 6 o'clock. And we go till pretty late. I have actually been on that live from about 7 my time till about 1 o'clock in the morning. So maybe. I mean, to be honest, the cover photo isn't gonna really change too much. It's YouTube with their because the shitty part is with their notification system, it's bad on here. You don't get notified for everybody's videos, even if you have the bell icon on. with your notifications. It's a total sham, to be honest. And that's kind of the problem, because I know there'd be more people in here and more people chatting if they actually got the notifications for this, but typically people don't. Most people really just don't get the notifications. Yeah, and that's always a plus too, because the more interaction there is on these, the more people come in and stuff like that. Although I do know something about my lives, which is a little interesting, of a statistic I found out. Since I've been doing lives, I've actually lost, I think it's like 42 subscribers. So it's usually, though, with my live streams, because like, it tells me that of certain content of if I've lost subscribers and whatever else. And yeah, subscribers as a whole, I've lost over 40 subscribers. So if I never did lives, I would technically be, instead of where I am right now, which is 2,827 subscribers, I'd be closer to like 28. What would that be? About 2,870 or so. So, but that's not a big deal, to be honest. Plus, I still think I'm going to beat Novitas to 3,000 subscribers anyway, so. But, you know, I have the luxury of I can put out as much or as little content as I want. He is needing a lot more um, stuff to happen for him to put out more content. Oh, yeah, and I don't, to be honest. It's fine. I understand. My lives aren't very flashy, and there's no structure to these. I typically have a um I typically have just something I want to chat about. I'll chat about that for usually about 20 or so minutes, and then it's can devolve into pretty much anything, like tonight has. And hey, 309. I mean, to be fair, you don't put out a ton of content though. you know, it takes a while to get, like, and to be honest, I mean, you look at my channel. I have how many uploads now? Actually, I can look. Give me 1 second. I will look. You just picked up 6 Fox bodies? See, I don't think I've actually been notified of your content lately, which that drives me nuts. And I do wonder, because I actually have to look. Oh, you just picked up 6 subscribers. Okay, I was confused. I was like, what? Okay, that makes sense. So I have, fuck. So I am at 700, or no, 800. No, yeah, 891 total uploads to YouTube. That's insane to think about, and I'm not even at 800,000 views. Like, that's one of those things, I upload a ton, but some of my stuff, doesn't get subscribers. Like, some of my shorts don't. Some do, some don't. And I get a lot more interaction for some videos on different platforms. You Instagram sometimes will give me a hell of a lot more views than YouTube does, or TikTok. Sometimes TikTok will give me more views, and every once in a blue moon, YouTube actually gives me more views than I get of them. See, now you just need to morph her into a card chick, and where it's not the end of the world if you have so many cards. And that's true. Um, like, because my channel, it's it's always interesting of videos that I think are going to do well and typically don't, or videos that um don't do well and I think they will. You know, all the above. And it's always interesting because I thought like my Dino video with all the Dino stuff would actually do better than it has. It's at like 500 it's about 550 or so views on my last video there. And you know, especially with the thumbnail basically where I'm holding, you know, subframe connectors in it and just being a little more dressed up and whatever else. I would have thought that would have got more viewers, but I mean that's fine. And to be honest, I just wanted to dress up just because I can. That's the beauty of, you know, being having free will. And it was nice actually, because also those shoes I haven't wore those in for fucking ever. So oh, she's in a Mustang now. What Mustang is she driving now? And that's good you got her out of an Altima, especially if it didn't have the 3.5. True. See, and that's the one thing with my channel where, okay, yes, there is hands-on content on here, 100%. You can look at my videos on, well, the T5 swap. There's a lot of information in there. There is some of the how-to guides that I have. Um, you know, that sort of stuff. There is a lot of for technical, like for physical stuff that is there, but typically, yeah, my channel is more technically involved. When it comes to, you know, just talking about my car and what I'm gonna do and different specs and stuff like that. So, which you know, it's okay. And oh, a 2022 Ego Boost. Okay, with the 10 speed, nice. Those 10 speeds are wonderful to play with. To be honest, I like those floppy paddles in them. Just and especially if you have it in like race mode, it's like instant shift. It's just so much fun. I've only driven one with the 10 speed. I've driven a 2014 with the 6 speed automatic in it, and then I've driven New Edges, and then my Fox buddies. Oh, he sent me a picture. Is it a picture of her car? Yes, it is. Ooh. Ah, okay. Ooh, I actually like the sort of specs on that, and that has. Oh, those are the wheels you never see. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, they're a fun little car. You know, and it's funny because people call them slow, but they're not. You know, they've got 300 and I think it's 65 horsepower in them, and with the 10 speed in them, God, they just freaking rip. Like you know, the one I drove was a it wasn't an EcoBoost, it was a Coyote, but still. Oh, trust me, I know it does. Like at times, you know, I will every once in a while I'll dress up, and it's more for my benefit. I don't typically do it for YouTube side, but you know, sometimes, yeah, because in that instance, honestly, when I did that video, I just wanted to look a little nicer. Well, and you know, actually, something that's funny about that 2.3 that is in that Mustang. You know that 2.3 is granted modified from then quite extensively, but the basis of it can be dated all the way back to 1970 with the 2.3 Lima that was in the Pinto. No word of a lie. That's when that engine technically debuted, but it debuted with only about 80 horsepower and about 120 foot-pounds of torque. And And well, that's good. Because I get into very fun adventures, to be honest. You know, with junkyard tours, with um, just working on the cars and everything. It's fantastic. Yeah, your 87 would be quite a bit of a dog with that 2.3, I can imagine, to be honest. Like, that would be slower because you're not only less power all the way around, you're also probably, well, not just probably, you are heavier than me too in that. So it doesn't help because yours is a hatchback too, if I remember correctly. And being an arrow, you're gonna be give or take 2,900 pounds. I'm closer to 2,700 pounds. Hey, I mean, Jeff, it's true though. The 2.3 EcoBoost can date its origins all the way back to the Lima, 2.3, and that Lima has been in constant production since 1970. It is the longest running um you know longest running engine basically being made in production vehicles, because something technically Ford dropped the 2.3 um after a while and then brought it back, but Mazda has kept that engine for the entire run of that time period, because technically speaking, I think it's a Mazda design. Oh, yeah. So the Camaro could have a 2.5 um the 2.5 Iron Duke four-cylinder, and for a few years through the 80s, and it was not a good choice. The Iron Duke was a terrible engine. It was not very good. Like, it's interesting. GM for the longest time could not produce a good four-cylinder motor typically. You know, um it's just a little interesting. They typically weren't that reliable with their four cylinders. They made great six cylinders, excluding the 2.8 V6. That was really bad. But like the Buick 3.8 was, it's one of the best motors of all time. Oh, you're dropping the 302 out of the 65? Okay. So then what's the Fox body gonna run then? Or not the Fox body, sorry, what are you gonna run in the 65? And oh yeah, no, I guess you couldn't, because even if your Fox body is an automatic, well, I mean, okay, if your Fox body was a manual, you'd actually be able to just swap out the bell housing and a couple extra parts, and you could actually run that the T5 with the 302. But with the AOD, sadly, the bell housing is integral, and it's not the same bell housing pattern with the 2.3 and the 302, which sucks. Ah, okay, you're gonna do all the bodywork and then you'll put a motor into anything. Gotcha. Fair enough. Oh, Jeff, you've never heard of the term iron puke? Yeah, it has that nickname, but also something. Um, for it was 19, I think it was 83 and 84 only. Um, the Pontiac Fiero was synonymous when it had the little Iron Duke 2.5 to catch on fire, because there was a an oil line that went to, if I remember correctly, it was an oil line. It may have been a fuel line, but I think it was an oil line that went towards the top of the engine, and it would typically split. And it would drip oil onto the hot engine, and it would catch on fire. So it may have been gasoline that it was leaking, but I think it was oil. I can't remember, to be honest. Like I said, I'm tired. Yeah. Um, but I'm just trying to think. Um, that's an interesting choice, actually. So 3.8, if it happens to be an automatic, that would actually be a, if it's an automatic, that'd be an AOD, actually, which would be nice to have a little bit of an overdrive. And the gear ratios in those AODs are actually pretty good. That's an interesting choice, actually. It's not a bad one, really. Uh with the V6, I thought it was an AOD. I mean, I could be wrong. I thought it was the AOD E that they used in the V6. Or no, that's what I'm thinking of. That's right. The manuals kept the T5 until 2004 with the V6. And actually, they used the T5 a little later than that too. Um, but they did go to the 4R70W. Yes, that is correct. I forgot about that. With those, because I know there was during the with the SN95 before the new Edge, those had an AOD in them. But yeah, I think you might be right. Actually, that's 4R70. Come to think of it, and yeah, see, actually, Jeff, that's the one thing with GM that what they do with the brand is pretty wild, because just GM in general. So they'll make a car for a few years, and it takes them a while to get it just absolutely perfect and good, and then they axe the vehicle after that. They have done it for a long time. So the two most famous examples of that, you look at the Fiero, because again that was one of those, and again that had the 2.8 V6, but actually it worked well in the Fiero. It just didn't work well in anything else, to be honest. But the Fiero was light enough to where it was fine. Um, However, there was um, the other really famous example of that is the C4 Corvette. So the C4 Corvette was in production from 83 or 84 right up until 1994, I think. And the very last year for that C4 is the best year that you could get. They did everything really well. It made the most power. The suspension was amazing. The interior was much better quality. It had a better suspension in it. And then they axed it and went to the C5. Yeah, you might be right. I can't remember the years, to be honest, with the C4 at the moment. Um, I mean, that 3.8 would move, like, because in general, that 3.8 makes what? 200 and it's over 200 horsepower, I'm pretty sure. And with torque, it's like around 250 foot-pounds of torque, and that would move that Mustang so well, because that Mustang is light, very light. So, and because people think that, oh, you need you need all this power, to make your car fast. That's not true at all. It just depends on what your definition of fast is. Because hell, my dad's Magnum that has 250 horsepower and 250 foot-pounds of torque and a vehicle that weighs, I think it's like 38 or maybe 4,200 pounds. I can't remember. It actually moves along pretty good, and it's actually pretty quick overall. You know, yeah, there are much faster vehicles. The fastest vehicle I've driven is my buddy's 2020 California Special GT, by far. But then also my neighbor's C10, that thing is a bit of a monster with its power and everything. But I think the Mustang would beat it, to be honest, in a race. I would think so. Because that C10, which actually is my neighbor, he lives towards the end of the alley, or into the trailer park here. He has I think it's like an 81 or an 82, something like that. Chevrolet C10, single cab long box. It actually has a Chevrolet 302 in it, from a Z28 Camaro that's pushing about 500 or 600 horsepower, and then he's got a 200 shot of nitrous on it too. It's lightened quite considerably from stock, not only from the rust, but just from everything else he's done. He's taken out about, I think he said it was like 200 pounds from stock. And so, it makes, so give or take 800 horsepower on spray. But a Coyote 10 speed, and with the modifications that Cody has to his with the tune and everything, it'd be a pretty close race. But unfortunately, that Mustang's now all the way out in Ontario, so wouldn't even be able to line them up next to each other for a race. Oh yeah, actually 100. I thought they had a little more than that, but maybe not. But yeah, to be honest, it's in total what it involves. So you've got really, so how much it weighs, the throttle response, how much power it makes, and the gearing. Which honestly, that last one, gearing, makes the biggest difference in the world. Um, but yeah, and I know those Cougars, they're kind of cool actually. I almost bought a Cougar for a few years ago. It would have been actually my first car for $300, but the rear glass was busted out, and I didn't know if I was gonna be able to find the rear glass for it, so I just didn't buy it because those Cougars had a unique back window. Yeah, the Super Coupe Thunderbirds were quite the little beast, to be honest. And the XR7, it's interesting because they had the 3.8 that made more power, but then they also had the 4.6 as well. So, depending on year, because some of them would have 302s. Again, depends on year for the Cougar, but it's honestly they're neat. Like a friend of mine, he when it comes to the Super Coupes, anyways, they are very he is one of the guys that if you want to build a 3.8, you talk to him, to be honest. He knows almost everything about them, and he's the go-to guy. 1990 was only V6s. Okay. Because I thought they would have had the 4.6 by then. Maybe not. Oh no, they had the 4.6 with Lincoln at that point. That's what it was. They just didn't have it with everybody else yet. So, which is cool. I do like the fact, like, because and like the Lincoln Mark 8, it's wild because like the 4.6 that was in those, they actually made quite a bit of power because they actually have, instead of a single overhead cam, it is the dual, or is it quad? No, I think it's quad cam actually. And it's not actually the Terminator engine. People will say, oh, it's Terminator engine. Well, no, it's not. The Terminator engine, it has a supercharger on it. It makes over 400 horsepower. But not only that, the Terminator motor has a lot of different upgrades in it over the Lincoln engine. So fair enough. And which I never understood that. Like, why did the Cougar and why did the Thunderbird not get the really good power engines, excluding the Super Coupe Thunderbirds? I never understood that, because like the motor that is in my 86 Mustang right now, it's out of an 88 T-Bird. And out of the box, they made 130 horsepower. That's it. Or not 130, sorry. They made it like, I think it was like 150 out of the box. It's just sad. And it's not like it's gonna outrun a Mustang. I'm sorry. A Cougar and a Thunderbird is a hell of a lot heavier than a Mustang is. Now, I will say, the Thunderbirds with a 302, and if you did the modifications like they were with the Mustang, with their independent rear suspensions, and if they had certain gearing in them, they could outrun some Mustangs, to be honest, but they were a lot heavier. But they were a lot more aerodynamic too, so it helped. But I don't know. It's it's kind of like also GM with their anal retentiveness of basically that nothing was supposed to be faster than the Corvette. And that there was never allowed to be competition for the Corvette within GM, which is the most ridiculous thing, to be honest. So the C3 Corvette is, or C3 or C2? No, C3. Yeah, C3 Corvette was actually supposed to be a Pontiac. Pontiac designed that car, but GM said no, and they took it for the Corvette. Yeah, see, and that's the one thing. Just because it has a 5-liter in it, it's got the shitty E6 heads in it, which is not good. And especially when you had the 5-speed, you have, I mean, gearing actually would be very similar, other than he would have had an AOD, which is a 4-speed, versus you with a 5-speed. You can control your shift points. He really can't as much. And it probably had a really bad rear gear in it too. It's probably 273s, I bet. And while your Mustang, I'm gonna guess in that 7.5 is what, probably 373s, maybe 410s out of the box. So it makes sense, to be honest. I mean, you may even have like 323s, to be honest, but still, it's just better gearing, less weight. You have a lot less power, but you just have all the other benefits. Well, and that's the one thing actually that I liked about the Lincoln Mark series, because the Lincoln Mark series, other than like the Mark 6, is the only exception to this, they wanted it to have more power. And now, because the Lincoln Mark 7, unless if like you had to get the LSC to get the proper high output 302, which was so dumb, because they should have had the high output 302 out of the get-go, or they should have put a actually what they should have done is put a 351 in the Lincoln Mark 7. They just never did. Depending on year. So the Thunderbird went to the MN12 platform by 1989. The Lincoln technically was the Fox body platform until 92, or 93, I should say. Or maybe it was 92, regardless, doesn't matter. And then the Cougar went to the MN12, and I believe it was 89 as well. Yeah, because the Cougar, or it actually may have been, no, it wasn't. Yeah, I think it was like 89. See, the Town Car, I'm not as big of a fan of the Lincoln Town Car. I like the Lincoln Mark series. You know, the Mark II, which is kind of a really interesting looking car, to be honest, and it's from the 50s and it's a very, very expensive luxury car back in the day. The Lincoln Mark III, which is the height of it, in my opinion, that was when they had the most power and they were the best looking, you know, in my opinion. And then you had the frick, I was talking about the MN12 platform, talking about the Fox body platform, talking about Thunderbirds, talking about the Lincoln Mark series. Just lost my train of thought. Well, see, that's the one thing. So the Lincoln Mark 7 never got a 351. They were 302 only. They were AOD only as well for their entire run of the car. Now, if you got the LSC, you did get the LSCs got the Mustang high output engine. So whatever the power the Mustang was making, that's technically a little less power in the Lincoln, only because it has about a 2 foot longer drive shaft. Or not 2 feet. No, it is a longer drive shaft in that thing. It's by about a foot, to be honest, longer drive shaft. So it would lose a little extra power because of that. But the Lincoln Mark 7 LSC is the only Fox body you could get that had 373s out of the box, if I remember correctly, because I don't even think the SVO got 373s. It may have, but I don't think so. And possibly the Mustang Cobra R in 1993 may have gotten 373s, but I think the Lincoln was the only one. And the Lincoln Mark 7 was the only Fox body that was a 5-lug, because every other Fox body was a 4-lug. Actually, the SVO was technically a 5-lug as well. I will preface that. But and the Cobra R was as well. Well, the thing is, so the Lincoln Mark 7 LSC had the exact same engine, heads, everything. It was all identical to the Mustang. Ford did not care that the Lincoln made more power because it weighed, by the time that they made, over 200 horsepower, it was 700 pounds heavier than a GT. So they didn't care. Interesting. 5.0 high output Versace. Because usually it would have had to have been ordered that way. being a Versace with the high output, because usually the high output was only reserved for the LSC. That's interesting. Being a Versace with that's cool, actually. You don't see too many of them. And personally, for me, the Lincoln Mark 7 is the best looking Fox body ever produced, in my opinion. I don't get me wrong, I still love obviously my Mustangs and my Capris and the Thunderbird and the Fairmont, all that stuff. But I still think, just from a look standpoint, Lincoln Mark 7, 100%. Now, and I've always wanted to have a Lincoln Mark 7 that had a T5 in it. And I do wonder, what all do you have to do to actually make it a manual? Because is it just as easy to swap, because it is a Fox body? Is it just as easy as swapping the pedals and doing all that, or do you have to do more customization to it? Like, do you have to modify the pedals because it's a the wider sort of car, and so it might not bolt in the same spots for the pedals? Like, I do wonder about that, and it'd be really neat to figure that out. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the best looking Mustang is definitely a 69 fastback by far. And give me a Boss, you know, or actually no, because the Boss 302 in 69 I think is the best looking one by far. It should be, but you never know. I've never seen one that's a manual, like, and it would just be really cool to have a stick shift Lincoln Mark 7 with 373 gears, and just have the thing be a little bit of a rocket that's still very comfortable. Put a little supercharger on that engine, or just put a good set of heads with a cam in it. Put some wide tires out back. It'd be really cool. See, the one thing is, I love me a big block. Don't get me wrong, they're awesome. But for me, with a Mustang, I always think that they should have the smaller engine, just because you should be able to flick it around more. Because a Boss 302 is designed to turn a little bit. It's still not like a super amazing handler, because it still is a Mustang from 69 after all. But, you know, the fact that, like, if I remember correctly, they're not even rack and pinion steering in 69 yet, for those. Like, I think that, yeah, the rack and pinion steering did not come along until the Mustang 2. Um, and that's one of the reasons why everybody put a Mustang 2 front end in their hot rods and stuff like that, because it was rack and pinion steering. And I definitely would. I would love a first gen Mustang, to be honest, just to play with and have as a project car. It'd be fun. But we'll see if I ever have the opportunity to get one. Um, yeah. So a Mark 7, I could realistically pick up a Mark 7 for, give or take, for just a decent runner that doesn't really have rust in it, about 2 or 3 grand, to be honest. Sometimes more. Ooh, 69 convertible. That'd be fun. I love me a convertible. You know, like, the lines on the fastback are better, but there is nothing better than jamming out the tunes in a vert, man. Promise you. Getting the wind in your hair. Ah, I miss driving my convertible. No, to be honest, Jeff, you'd be surprised. Lincoln Mark 7s can actually go for a decent amount of money, because now, like, they're on the rise too. To be honest, like, you're hard put to get a really cheap Mark 7 anymore. Unless if it's just a beater with high miles. You know, gone are the days of getting a Mark 7 for like $1,000. At least here where I am. And bear in mind, I'm also talking in Canadian prices too, not American. So equate that to USD, you're like $3,000 is closer to about $2,300, give or take. Yeah, and because the one thing is, people are realizing that so all of the or not all of them but a lot of the old comfortable sort of boats are going up in value because people want to get a luxury car, but what they're realizing is modern luxury vehicles are not comfortable at all, and what they consider luxury is technology, when in fact it's not technology that's luxury, it's overall comfort that should be your luxury. And new luxury vehicles just are not comfortable. They're not. Modern vehicles in general aren't. They want to make these luxury cars more sporty and more technological when really they should be focusing on comfort. Um, and a Lincoln Mark 7 is a perfect compromise because you've got the sportiness of it being a Fox body, and yet you've got the luxury of it being a proper Lincoln. Because I have honestly thought about in my car putting Lincoln LS7 seats in Stitch, to be honest, in my 81. Oh yeah. 1990 Cougar, it's a decent sized car to be honest. They're spacious, they're nice, they're quite luxurious to be honest. They were a perfect little car in that regard, you know. But it like and I love the old luxury sport coupes to be honest. They are just a joy. There's so many, and especially from Ford at the time. And when they went to the MN12 platform, they also got an independent rear suspension and stuff like that. Or actually, correction, I don't know if the Cougar ever got the independent rear suspension when it was still a rear wheel drive, but that's fair. And see, for me, you got to go earlier than that for the T-Bird, because T-Birds in '95 they had these very soft lines up front, and I'm just not a fan of those. Go back to, for me, about 1990 to about 1992, I think is like the peak of the Thunderbird styling, in my opinion. Because afterwards, again, they changed the front end and they had these really soft lines. I wasn't a big fan of it. It's no different within the Lincoln Mark 8. The Lincoln Mark 8, it did a similar thing. It had really good lines when it first came out. The later one had a lot softer lines up front, and I just was not as much of a fan of that. And you know, um, with the softer lines later on. However, they did have a much better intake on them. Ah, okay. I couldn't remember because I know the T-Bird got the independent rear suspension, and the Lincoln did when it went to the Mark 8 after 1992. But yeah, I wasn't sure if the Cougar did. So the Cougar was live axle. Okay. Now that is interesting that more people don't build up the Cougars over the T-Birds. Only reason why, you know, with the Cougar, I would say that is because with the live rear axle, that's better for like quarter mile drag racing compared to the Thunderbird with the live rear, or with the independent rear suspension, that's better for cornering. Ugh. But well, at least for a name, it does, and the Thunderbird does look better. I suppose that's true too. But I'm ow, cat. That's your back claws. They're sharp. But anyways, it is now. I've been going for over 2 hours now. It's currently 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting really tired here. Um, but so I'm gonna sign off here. However, I really appreciate y'all coming out. It was a fantastic conversation. And as well, if because I know obviously Mustang guy knows how to get a hold of me. But Jeff, if you want to chat anytime, um, to me, honestly, the best way to contact me is on my Instagram, which is Catarinas.garage. If you ever want to message me there, you can. And yeah, because I always like a good sort of conversation, especially about cars. It's always fun. But anyways, um, I will chat at you all later. Hope you all have a wonderful sleep, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.